Hi guys. So let's start class. So today we are going to look at assessment criteria 2.3. Today we are going to look at assessment criteria 2.3. Okay. So I hope you have been doing well so far in chapter 1, and today we are going to conclude chapter 2, right? So we did assessment criteria 2.1, 2.2, and today we are going to complete 2.3. Okay, let me share my slides. So I hope you are enjoying the sessions so far and doing your work, learning a lot of new things, because it is important that you practice. You're doing an exam, so it is important that you practice the mock exams and do your reading and writing your short notes. So it's very critical you do that. So we end this chapter with a discussion on data, how you analyze data to gain insights and to make effective decision making through data. That's what we are going to learn in this assessment criteria 2.3, right? So here's the outline of what we're going to do today. We're going to understand the importance of the validity, accuracy, and the quality of data. There's some other criteria as well, because as marketers, we spend a lot of time looking at insightful data. All our decisions, all our actions are based on data and information. So it is very important that data has some level of accuracy, validity, reliability, and the overall quality. How do you clean data? How do you warehouse data? All this is very important. We're going to explore that. Then in terms of data analysis, when you undertake data analysis, we have 4 types of categories: descriptive data, diagnostic data, predictive data, and prescriptive data. So you need to study this because these can come for the exam. I'll give you some examples. Then how do you use data, convert it into information, convert it into insights and actionable insights? We're going to discuss that. How do you present data? We call that data visualization using softwares, charts and graphs, Excel. We will discuss some examples there, right? And how do you generate insights to make marketing decisions? And finally, the last few areas would be, how do you undertake a SWOT analysis? SWOT analysis means strengths, weaknesses of the organization, which are internal to the organization, and opportunities and threats, which are external to the organization. The SWOT analysis is the most fundamental tool in marketing, and you are going to enjoy it. In fact, you need to do a SWOT analysis for yourself. It's a good exercise. What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And the SWOT turned the other way is called TOES. SWOT turned the other way is called TOES. So we're going to learn the extension of SWOT analysis is the TOES analysis. Simple tools, I'll take you through that. And then how an organization would achieve a comparative advantage through analysis of data. And the importance of scanning the macro and the micro marketing environment that you know already to gather data. We call that environmental scanning. Environmental scanning. All right. So let's start and let's look at these respective areas. So we start by looking at the definition of some of these terms. What is data? What is information? How can you generate insights from information, right? So all of you know what a database is. A database is a technically a IT term where you keep data, store data, right? Some people store data in Excel sheets. Some people use SQL. Some people use different kinds of servers and other softwares. Maybe the cloud, you can store data. So a database is full of information and data. Okay. So let's start with data, raw data. Okay. So data is made up of small facts and information without context. So if you go to a hotel and check into a room, right? You fill in forms, that is data. People collect your raw data. There's no context to it, and that goes into a system, that goes into a computer. There's no context to it. It's just raw numbers and terms and words. Okay. So data is important because without data, you will not have information. First, you need to collect data. But when you give a certain context to data, so if I say, can I know from the hotel bookings that we had last month, how many came from Europe? Can you tell me how many Europeans came? Right. Then that is giving a context to data. So if you give a context to data and a command, I'm using IT language now, to data, and you sort of analyze the data with a command, that becomes a context, that becomes information, that becomes information. So it might be useful to see last month from our hotel guests, how many guests are from Europe. So, oh, wow, 70% are from Europe. 70% are from Europe. Now you have information. What is an insight? Right? What is an insight? Insights are gained when information is consumed and used for decision making. So an insight is, okay, if 70% of our customers are from Europe, shall we use that to have some promotion targeting European consumers? Shall we use that as a promotion this season and target the European consumers because we feel that there are many who are staying in our hotel? So data, information, insights. Insights are actionable, something that you can really action about. And an insight is an important word. I'll tell you why, right? Someone asked me, one of my friends actually who's a researcher, some time ago, guys, asked me, "Oh, what is the meaning of an insight?" Right? So I was looking at dictionary definitions to give him. He's a researcher, he's a good friend of mine. He asked me, what is an insight? So I said, insight can be, and if I ask you the same question, what is an insight? Can you define an insight? So I was looking at all complicated words to define an insight. So an insight is something that you know, something valuable that you can action on. So I was talking about all these answers, and he gave me a very simple answer. And he told me this. Remember this very carefully. An insight is something that is insight. That's it. Right? See how powerful that is. An insight is something that is in front of your eyes. That's what is called insight. An insight is insight, but you don't see it. Right? It is in front of your eyes, it is under your nose, but you don't see it. All this time you're not seeing it, but all of a sudden you see it. All of a sudden you see that most of our customers, high spending customers, come from Europe. That's an insight, actionable insight, right? So again, it's under your nose, but you have not seen it so far. But the moment you see it, it is a moment of discovery. It is it is an Archimedes kind of moment. It's a moment of serendipity and discovery, if you know what I mean, right? Because, wow, why didn't I know this piece of information all this time? That means that's an insight and it is actionable. If you action it, you'll get results. I hope you got it, right? So when we talk about data, guys, I mean, it's very important that you, first of all, that you collect data, right? It's very important that you collect data because some companies don't even collect data. So the first step is, please have a mechanism. You can use technology. You can use manual methods. You can use iPads. You can use emails, whatever method, you have to collect data, right? And when you collect data, you start having a lot of data. Imagine how much of data Sri Lankan Airlines must be having, number of flights. Imagine what kind of data Cargill's must be having, the largest retailer, 500 plus stores in this country. Now imagine the data Walmart must be having, the largest company retailer in the world, Walmart. It's mind-blowing, actually. It's mind-blowing. Okay. So now you gather a lot of data, yes, but you need to understand these components. Data that you gather must be accurate. The validity of the data is very, very important, right? The validity of the data, right? And then the uniqueness, the integrity, the quality, the consistency, and the completeness of data. So your data needs to have these characteristics. And from a IT point of view, it is important that you cleanse your data. At least once in 6 months, you must start cleaning your data. Because sometimes you realize that some frontliners don't really sort of update all the fields. Sometimes they'll miss to put the email address, the title, they'll miss to put a phone number, right? So you need to start cleaning data because there can be duplicated data. There can be wrong, inaccurate data. There can be inconsistencies in data. So you need to ensure that your data is valid, accurate, and talking about the quality of data, which means your completeness, uniqueness, consistency, integrity, all these are very important characteristics. Right? So when we talk about data analysis, we talk about four types. We talk about four types of data analysis: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. You need to study this because you can have some questions around this because these are theory. Therefore, please study theory. It needs to go into your short notes, and after your short notes, it needs to go to your head, right? So you can get some questions around this, multiple choice questions, of course. So the types of data in an organization, when you're talking about a marketing department, you will have descriptive data, which is very narrative, which explain what happened, right? You'll have descriptive data, which explain the what, right? What really happened. So let's say you might have data about sales. Okay, what is the sales? What happened in each branch? What is the sales that happened in each branch, right? Or you might have data about a certain campaign, the campaign's performance. What is the campaign? What is the campaign, right? So the descriptive data is, unless you add value to it, just data, descriptive data alone won't be helpful, right? Now, diagnostic data is something very important. Diagnostic means it's not just descriptive data that anyone can collect, right? Now, when you read the newspapers, you collect descriptive data. When you read magazines, industry reports, you collect descriptive data. But diagnostic data is not that. Diagnostic data means is you try to diagnose why, right? So you look at some data to understand and diagnose why something happened. Why something happened. Why did sales go down last month? Shall we look at our database and do some analysis and look at different kinds of customer analysis, product analysis, margin analysis, competitive activity analysis? We are going to look at all these to diagnose why sales went down last month. So that is called diagnostic analysis. Diagnostic analysis. That means there's no point looking at descriptive. You're trying to find a solution to some kind of problem. And you're going behind that data and analyzing it. Okay. Predictive is about the future. Predictive data analysis is when you're trying to attempt to predict the future. Let's say you want to predict what's going to come out in the budget this year, right? In November. Let's say you want to predict who's going to win the next election. So that is a forecast. Let's say you want to predict this year's season, how much of sales are you going to do? So that's a forecast. So in order to do that, you need to then look at predictive data analysis. Predictive data analysis. And prescriptive means you give a solution, recommends an action based on the forecast. Recommends an action based on the forecast. That prescriptive means you give a solution, right? So when we talk about the 4 types of data, right, we can put it in a chart like this in terms of the value of it and complexity of it, right? Descriptive data analysis is it's not very valuable and it's not very complex. You just read the newspapers and gather the descriptive data, right? You watch the news and gather descriptive data. I mean, everyone can do it. Your competitors can do it, right? Anyone who reads the news can do it. Diagnostic data analysis, you have to spend some time trying to find the solution to the problem. So it takes a lot more energy than descriptive analysis. Predictive data analysis is where you predict the future. Again, the value of it is important because you're trying to predict the future, and the complexity of it is higher than diagnostic and descriptive. Prescriptive is even more important because you're trying to give a solution. So highly complex and very, very valuable. Okay, I hope it's clear. Then we come into this diagram where we understand that in an organization, guys, in an organization, you have a lot of data in your database, a lot of data. It's like the ocean. It's like the ocean. You have a lot of water. Company also has a lot of data, some meaningful, some non-meaning, no meaning whatsoever, some not cleansed, some just stored somewhere. Okay. So you have a lot of data. The challenge is to convert data into information that managers can use. And information must generate intelligence. Another word for intelligence is insights. Something that is important for you to know, an insight. And even from these insights, there are some insights that are good to know, but some insights which are actionable insights, something that you can immediately do. We call them actionable insights. So the whole purpose behind looking at data, analyzing data using softwares to convert it into information and information to insights, and within that also to find a few actionable insights. That is what is important in this whole process of data gathering, right? I hope it is clear. Okay, so let's continue our discussion. And we now come into data visualization. Data visualization. Now, one of the things that we also talk about when we look at data is how soon and how fast you can make data, raw data, meaningful. And in companies, especially with the digital data that we all process, it is important using AI and other technologies for us to use softwares and AI capabilities to visualize data really fast. Because gone are the days that you have time to sit and manually analyze charts, graphs on Excel sheet and look at it at the month end. We need to real-time data, look at real-time data and real-time solutions. So data visualization is the process of using visual elements like charts, graphs, and maps to look at real-time information with raw data. This translates to complex high volume or numerical data into a visual representation that is easier to understand. So data visualization tools involve some level of automation softwares, right? And, obviously Google is one company that use Google Analytics very well, which is also a visual representation of all our online search data. And can you see how this is data visualization, right? You can present data into engaging visuals. So now this is an interesting way to present the world's top 50 websites, right? So can you see the biggest circle is talks about the biggest in terms of the engagement. And then you have YouTube, then you have Facebook. So you can see the size of it denotes something, right? And then you see the color of it is obviously the company's color in some cases. And then you have, in terms of, it talks about the engagement of it, right? 92.5 billion in terms of Google, and less than half of that is YouTube, 34.6 billion, right? And you can see the breakdown of the categories. You can see the breakdown of the categories. Social networks, online communication communities are the biggest. Okay, so this is a visual representation, a very interesting way to present data. This is not business data as such, but charts, graphs can also be looked at in terms of data visualization. Here's another one, right? This shows the different mobile operators. You have Apple, you have BlackBerry, at least when it was, BlackBerry now is dead, but when it was operating, HTC, LG, Nokia, Samsung, Sony, and others. So what it also shows there is, right, now it shows that the loyalty of a certain brand, the loyalty of a certain brand. So you can see LG users also used other phones, right? LG users also used a little bit of Nokia, others, and Sony. But LG users did not use Apple, BlackBerry, HTC, or Samsung. So can you see how importantly this is presented? So you can show that Apple users also used other types. Okay. But Nokia users only use Nokia and not the main other types, but very small brand under other. Samsung users used a lot of other phones also, as you can see. So it's a very interesting visualization of presentation of information. Okay. So in business, there are many ways you can use insights to support marketing decisions. So customer data analysis would help marketers interact with the company at various stages of the customer journey. So you have the customer's journey. If you go to an airline, right? The customer journey of an airline, the customer has to first go through the website to book a air ticket, right? That's one form of it. Otherwise, it has to go to a travel agent. Otherwise, they can go to the airport and buy it in some airports, right? Directly from the airport. And then the customer goes through a particular journey in buying a product, right? Before buying it, you can look at an app and evaluate other airlines and see what the best price is, right? The customer goes through a journey before buying a product. So at each of these stages, now let's say online behavior. Let's say I want to buy something from something fashion related. Okay, I don't at once go and buy it. I research about it. So I will go into different websites, research about it. Then I will think about it. I'll wait for a sale or I'll wait for a promo code where I can redeem it online. Okay. Or I'll wait for the promotion in store for me to go physically and buy. So before you buy a product, you go through a fair degree of analysis. And the company needs to collect all this data. Okay. Now, I don't know whether you have heard about this website called AliExpress. AliExpress is part of the Alibaba group. I buy a few things from AliExpress. In fact, last month I ordered 2 things because it has a lot of very interesting products, right? And it sends it to you really fast, very, very fast. And little things. So if I want to buy a cover for my phone, and if I want to personalize it, if I want a nice design, if I want a cover, you go to AliExpress and you can order covers, so many suppliers. They will design it and send it to you in maybe 10 days. Very good price. And it'll arrive in your doorstep. So if you go there, now you look for phone covers and you ordered something at a good price. When your order is on the way, they start promoting other things for you. They start promoting other things for you. They study your behavior and they will show you similar likes, similar things that you may like. And they will send you emails. I get an email every day from AliExpress. And every day I keep saying, no, today I'm not going to look at this. But every day when I click through the email, there's something I like about it. Some product that I like. So I start researching. And as a result, they also not stopping. They also continuously sending me daily emails. Daily I find something interesting. Right? So you see, they have not given up on the customer's journey. They're continuing to talk to me, which is a very interesting way of doing marketing. Okay. So information and data can also be gathered about your customers. So when we talk about customers, we talk about market segmentation or customer segmentation, which is the next chapter. We're going to do that, right? Market segmentation. So there are 4 ways to categorize or segment customers. We call that demographic segmentation. Demographic means you will segment a market based on demographics, personal factors, right? Demographics means personal factors like your gender, your race, your religion, your profession, your income. So you can segment the market based on that. Then you have behavioral factors. Behavioral factors are where you segment the market based on certain behavioral traits of your database. So in my database, if I have a supermarket, I can behaviorally segment my database by understanding who comes once a week to my supermarket, who comes daily to my supermarket, who comes once a month to my supermarket, and who comes once a year. That's called behavioral segmentation. Based on the behavior of the customer, I can segment my database. Geographic means based on the geography. Who comes from Colombo 5 to my supermarket? Who comes from Colombo 6 to my supermarket? Who comes from Colombo 7 to my supermarket? So that's geographic segmentation. So demographic means personal factors segmentation. Behavioral is based on the behavior of the customer. Geographic is based on the geography. Psychographics is based on the lifestyle. So how many customers come to my store in a car? How many customers come to my store in a high-end vehicle, Mercedes, BMW, or a Jeep or something like that? So that means I'm looking at lifestyle, certain class of a class of customers, right? So in order to do segmentation, geographic, demographic, psychographic, or behavioral segmentation of a database, I need to have the data. Without data, I can't do anything, right? So data is very important for market segmentation as well. And it is also important in digital marketing, right? To look at customer engagement matrix. So these are some of the digital marketing terminology. I'm sure you learn them in social media marketing as well, right? Click-through rates means, now I told you about the AliExpress email I get daily. And every day I keep telling myself, I'm not going to open it. But I open it. And every day I keep saying, now let me block this form today. But I won't do it now because every day I'm getting something interesting. So every day I click on something I like in the email because they show about 10 products. And I go to the website to see more information and the price. That's called a click-through rate. When you are sent an email or a SMS or something, you click on the URL to go to the website to see more information. That's called click-through rates, right? Open rate means if you are sent an email or a WhatsApp, some customers delete it without even opening it. Sometimes it gets spammed. So how many open as a percentage? Having about 40-50% people open your email is very good. Usually it's very less, under 10%. Then you have conversion rate. Conversion means how many people in your website go and check out your page and then show interest using the chat. They ask how much and all that, and then go into the cart and pay for your product. So those are called conversion rates, right? Page per person means, page per session means when you go onto the website, how many pages have you gone into? Micro pages have you gone into? Average session duration means how long are you spending on a website? So these you will investigate in digital marketing, but this is also data. Google Analytics will give you all this data on your website and also on search, right? Let's now come to the SWOT analysis. Okay, so let's look at the SWOT analysis now. So the SWOT analysis, guys, is the most fundamental tool in marketing, right? It's the first tool you learn in marketing, okay? Because in a marketing plan, we start a marketing plan with a situational analysis, that is called the SWOT analysis. Another word for SWOT analysis is situational analysis. So you look at the company's strengths. What are the company's strengths, right? Does it have some patents, some expertise, some resources, innovative products and services, good location, strong reputation? These are all the strengths. And what are the company's weaknesses? right? Again, poor quality can be damaged reputation, the same things. Sometimes for a company can be the weaknesses as well. Location, expertise, undifferentiated. So you have to carefully sit and think, what are the company's strengths and weaknesses? You can do this exercise for yourself as well. You know what your strengths are. You know what your weaknesses are. So you can sit with some managers and do this for your company. So remember, strengths and weaknesses are internal to the organization. Internal. What are the opportunities? Opportunities and threats to the organization, which are external to the organization. Opportunities and threats come from the marketing environment, pestle and micro environment outside the organization. So what are the opportunities? What opportunities do we have? So if I think about Cambridge College, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? So many weaknesses. Every company has weaknesses. Even Google, Apple, Microsoft will have a lot of weaknesses. And every company will have opportunities as well. What are my opportunities? Can I go international? Can I launch new products? Can I launch certain types of promotions? So many kinds of opportunities. And what are my threats? What are my threats? Price wars, new laws, taxation, right? There can be so many kinds of threats. So you have to create an exhaustive list of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But remember, strengths and weaknesses are internal to the organization. Opportunities and threats are external to the organization. Now, if you turn SWOT the other way, it's called TOES. So there was an author who created the TOES matrix. He had nothing else to do, right? This is the guy. He didn't have anything else to do. He turned the SWOT the other way and called it the TOES matrix. Now, I'm just kidding. There was something important that he did, right? He said, you can first do the SWOT analysis. So when you're doing strengths and weaknesses, you can understand what are the strengths and internal strengths and internal weaknesses for the organization. Then what are the external opportunities and threats? So you can come up with the bullets, opportunities and threats. So now inside the TOES matrix, you get the SWOT analysis also. But now he said you can generate strategic options for the organization, strategies for the organization, or strategic options for the organization. Same thing. By mixing these, right? So how would you use the organization's strengths, right, to exploit opportunities? What can you do? I'll give you an example in the next page. What are the things you can do to use the company's strengths and exploit opportunities? What can you do by using your strengths to mitigate some of your company's threats? To mitigate some of your company's threats. What can you do? So there are certain initiatives you can do, right? Then the third one is, right? So you can put the bullets here. What are the weaknesses you need to overcome to exploit the opportunities that you have identified? You can put those thoughts here, weaknesses you need to overcome to exploit the opportunities you have identified. And finally, what are the weaknesses you need to overcome in order to mitigate certain threats? Again, you can put those points here. Now I'll give you an example for this in the next page. The authors have given us an example, right? So this is how it has been done for an organization, right? You can see here the TOES matrix. So you have this applied to Mercedes-Benz car division. What are its strengths, its weaknesses, which are internal, opportunities and threats, which are external, and then you go the strategic options. There you go, the strategic options, like I explained before, right? So I hope you have got it now. So the TOES matrix not only has the SWOT, it also has strategic options. It also has the strategic options. And then we go into the last part of your chapter, where we talk about the importance of marketing data analytics and how it will provide insights and support effective decision making to competitive advantage, to achieve a competitive advantage. You see, now I used to work in a bank and a credit card company. And when you look at user behavior of credit cards, right? Thousands and thousands of credit cards. We used to have about 200,000 customers credit cards at Amex those days. So my job is to run the business. So we used to have so many analysts, data analysts, who used to look at data. And then we used to do various kinds of promotions, offers, merchant offers, discounts, promotions, product bundling, looking at the purchase behavior, usage behavior. So by looking at data, even a supermarket can do this. An airline can do this. You look at data, analyze data. We call that data analytics, right? Number crunches. And you look at correlations. You look at data, the trends between two sets of data. And you can make decisions for promotions, and all that will end up by you achieving an advantage over your competitors. We call that achieving a competitive advantage, right? And all this is only possible if you collect data. And collecting data involves scanning the environment. You need to keep your antennas open. You need to read newspapers, watch TV, news, international, local. Keep your antennas open on the macro, political, economic, social, cultural, technological. Keep your eyes open on the micro environment, porters, five forces, customers, intermediaries, distributors. So you have to absorb information from the environment. We call that environmental scanning. So environmental scanning is the process of gathering information about the environment, right? Mainly external, macro and micro, but then you also need to have internal data collected for decision making. The basic purpose of environmental scanning is to help management determine the future actions of the organization. Okay, okay, I hope it is clear. I hope it is clear. With that, we conclude assessment criteria 2.3 and chapter 2. Please read the reading material I have given you, as well as attempt the exam at the end of chapter 2. I'll see you in chapter 3. Goodbye.